Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for another sports segment of Spanning the Need. Tonight we'll be with two great coaches in our Mahoning Valley, Coach Keith Gunther from the Ursuline boys basketball team and Coach Andy Saxon from Girard Schools, and a couple of seniors, Emily Fitzgerald and Ian Barton, which we'll get to in a little bit. We're going to be discussing a variety of topics about what's going on in their basketball realms with the pandemic, as well as talk about some other leadership practices that they're doing with their teams that maybe can help any future basketball coaches as well as players. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules, gentlemen.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Well, and we talk about a very interesting time right now with the pandemic, what's going on as our current events. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's get to you, Coach Gunther. How did you really start your basketball career? Not many people may know how you got started, and then we'll go to Coach Saxon and how he got started as well. Coach?
Well, I was a collegiate basketball player. I played basketball at Ursuline University. And then when I came back to the area, I coached 7th and 8th grade junior high basketball at La Brea, which was my alma mater. And then just happened to be playing ball up at the Newton Falls Park one day, and me and Roy Simback got to chatting, and he'd asked me if I'd be interested in helping out, and inevitably I ended up getting hired by Roy. I worked with Roy for about 6 or 7 years. During that time, we won 3 district titles, and I was very fortunate to be educated by a great coach like Roy. Inevitably, the year we upset Ursuline a couple of years later, I ended up being the Ursuline boys basketball coach. And, I got to take my hats off to Roy and a lot of other people, Larry Seaford and the La Brea administration, that actually got my foot in the door as far as coaching goes.
Well, and that's a great thing. Like, you've been around the systems, so from Roy, now he's at Newton Falls, and your home alma mater is La Brea, and I think it feels special when you go back to La Brea. Does that feel special when you go back and play him?
I mean, it's a great feeling, when you've been coached by somebody like Roy, and then you get to go back to your roots and play at a school like La Brea. And I've actually had the privilege of playing Roy on a couple different occasions, and I've got him a couple times. I think the last time we played us, he spanked us pretty good, though. Semi. So, he's got the upper hand. It's the student-teacher motto. He was a great teacher. He was a great mentor. And I'll be honest with you, primarily most of my high school basketball coaching success really goes out to Roy Simback.
And everyone has a special story that they tutored them up. And Coach Saxon, you almost have a similar story. You're kind of been around a long time. You've been at a couple different programs, but you've been coaching for, I think, 400 wins. 400 wins in that. Huh?
Yeah, a few wins here and there.
Yeah. So how did you start your basketball coaching career?
Well, actually, I started as a senior at Girard. I coached the little peewee kids at 4th, 5th grade basketball, and then I went to YSU. I played baseball at YSU for Don Roselli, the great Don Roselli, I might add. And then I got back into coaching. I was coaching baseball, football, and basketball. And basketball seemed to be the best fit for me, basically because of the weather. I mean, playing or coaching baseball and softball was just, around this area is not bad. So I stuck with basketball. So then I became the assistant coach in 84, 85. Then I became the head girls basketball coach in 86. And I've been the head coach at Girard for close to 37 years. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, being at the same school for 37 years. I mean, that's unheard of nowadays. I mean, you either get non-renewed or you move on to a better situation. But I've always believed, there are years where we're not going to be as good, but we'll always come back. And 37 years as a head coach at the same school, I think that's, I'm proud of that.
Well, and I think it calls the determination of what you can do over those years. And Coach Gunther, you've been around quite a bit too. I mean, so you've seen a very different change in how basketball is played, from the slowing it down to the up pace for boys, and Coach Saxon the same way with you. So how do you change your philosophy now because of this pandemic? You can't you can't talk to your players in person. You kind of have to keep them on their own check. And we'll talk to Emily and we'll talk to Ian here a little bit about how they're dealing with the pandemic and how they're preparing. So how do you change, and we'll talk to Coach Saxon real quick, how do you change your momentum and your change because you can't see or put them in the gym?
Well, actually, we started yesterday. We're actually allowed to come into the gym with certain stipulations. I mean, the girls have to enter in different doors, and you have to group them in like whatever, 2 groups. We have 2 gyms, and they come in and we have to take their temperature. We have to go through a protocol, and then they have their own little self space in the gym, and they have their own ball, and we sterilize everything before, during, and after. So it's kind of, you know, you want your kids to be working together, you know, good camaraderie, but it's kind of tough because they're separated, especially with girls, because they like to sit and chat and talk to each other. So like you tell them, like, spread out. You're too close. You're too close. So and then when they leave through separate doors. So it's a big change for now. You know, hopefully things get better.
What about you, Coach Gunther? You got to change as well. I mean, because you haven't probably they haven't been in the gym and they just got in this week.
Yeah, and it's tough. We're going to have to adapt. We actually will be starting up on Monday, but it's like anything else. It's like right now, nobody has an advantage over anybody else. So we're all starting from square one. This is all new to us. You got to figure out what works for you. You got to figure out what works for your kids. I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to realize is that we're going to have to adjust to some things differently than we have in the past. And you got to figure out what's going to work individually for your kids. Whether it's, right now we got we got 8 guys that'll be coming in on Monday. They'll be coming in 3 days next week with the stipulations by the state, of course. But then on the side of that, it really boils down to what your kids are doing individually outside of what you're having them do. And for the teams that are going to be good, it's going to be because of the kids that busted their butt and worked hard outside on their own.
So, and that brings up a great point, Coach Gunther. How have you had team meetings with your Zoom team meetings? Have you kind of helped with any? Hey guys, let's try to get together. Let's try to get on the same page. Let's work out at home at least if you can. Have you done some of that?
Oh yeah. So what we've done is we've actually sent out a workout plan for our kids to do individually at home. If you can find a court somewhere near you, one-on-one by themselves. I'll be honest with you. My greatest improvement as a high school player came when I was doing my own individual workout. That's when you improve, is when you know your weaknesses, you work on them on your own, you don't have any distractions. That's when you become a better basketball player as an individual. Now, the thing that we're missing is the camaraderie part where we start to gel as a team. That's what's going to hurt. It's going to be who can gel through this pandemic, with your kids doing the individual workout. How can you gel? How can you get the kids to gel? So a lot of that's going to be a lot of mental preparation, I think, so more than it has been in the past. You're going to have to do some things differently. You're going to probably have to put out some books. You're going to have to put out some motivational factors in order to get your team to gel.
And I know you'll be starting this coming, and then it's open gym, and then you got to work with these social distancing and everything like that. Coach Sax, what about you? What have you done different because you can't get in the gym during this pandemic?
Well, like Coach said, and I just told my girls that today, it's self-motivation. You have to get out there and work on your own. I've sent them numerous videos on different drills, different things they can do on their own. But it's definitely self-motivation. You need to get out there and work. You're going to have to work on your own because we can't, like Coach said, it's hard to get together. The camaraderie is not going to be there right now. But self-motivation, in my opinion, is going to be very important in the next few months.
And I think that brings a great point, is now we're kind of getting to that realm of, hey, we're back in the gym. We got to get our skills back up. We got to improve. So let's talk a little bit to some of the players from your teams. And we'll bring in Emily and we'll bring in Ian here. How are you, gentlemen and ladies, I should say? How are you, Emily? How are you, Ian?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you guys. I'm glad you guys can join us. Emily is going to be a senior coming up for the Girard Indians, and Ian will be a senior coming up, if I'm correct, coming up for the Ursuline Irish. So let's go to Ian first. Ian, how are you preparing during this pandemic, because you're not allowed in the gym? What has been different about that?
Honestly, not much has changed for me. I've always shot and worked out on my own, so I really hit the weights hard, and I shot. I'm really competitive. So me and my brother constantly push each other just to be the best we can be.
And so have you kind of put yourself on basically a repetitious every day? I'm out shooting hoops, or I'm out shooting different types of drills.
Exactly. How I do it, I'll wake up, I'll go shoot 200 shots, 300 shots in the morning, and then I'll go lift, eat, do my homework, whatever I had, and then shoot a little more at night.
So what is your plan now, since you're going to be getting back in the gym? So have you think you have improved and gotten better? Because you're like your coach said, sometimes you're basically training on your own, so you're actually best to improve that way.
I definitely believe I got a little bit better, but obviously nothing replaces the in-gym work with your teammates. So it'll be fun to get back in the gym.
Well, and everyone wants to get back in the gym. I know Emily is probably dying to get back in the gym as well, like her teammates. So Emily, what are you doing differently? Like, I'm basically going to ask you same as what Ian is. What are you doing daily or weekly? Because I know you're still going to school during the day. You're still doing now where I think some schools are now emptying out for summer break. So what have you done to kind of get prepared for next year in this type of pandemic?
I've been doing a lot of things similar to Ian. I've been running a lot because I run track and cross country as well. So I've been going on runs and lifting weights. We have a lot of that in my basement. I've been shooting outside in my driveway, just trying to work on everything I can. And like Coach Saxon said, he's been sending us videos. So I've been trying to do the drills off of those to improve my skills.
And so, same thing. Have you've seen an increase in your skills that have improved? Because I know you probably want to get back in the gym and get kind of organized, correct?
Yeah, and we just started yesterday back in the gym, but it's definitely unusual being separate and not being able to share and pass the ball with one another. We kind of have to still work on our own. So
are you guys feeling that you guys can be ready to go by basketball season and be at that level of competitiveness with this pandemic that we have?
I'm hoping so, but yeah, I think we can be on that track.
Same to you, Ian. Would you think that?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe Coach Gunther, no matter what's going on, he'll always have us ready for the season.
And I appreciate your honesty and having you guys on, and I appreciate the coaches for bringing you on. Is there anything you want to add or talk about, Ian, that you'd want to share about what you've experienced during this pandemic?
It's just been so different. It's a different world we live in, so everyone's got to adapt. That's the biggest thing, just learning to adapt to how the world is now.
I'm sorry, I must have not. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ian. Could you repeat that again? I think my system just went haywire.
No worries. I just said the biggest thing during the pandemic is just learn to adapt. It's completely different. This has never happened before. No one knows how to handle this, so just gotta roll with the punches.
I appreciate that. And Emily, anything you'd like to add? Kind of what you've learned during this pandemic? Anything that at all that you'd like to share?
I think the biggest thing so far has kind of been motivation. Without your coaches and teammates around to push you to be better, you have to do it for yourself. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I've had to work on.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking your time out of your busy schedules to join us with your coaches. You have very good, talented both coaches that have a lot of experience and a lot of depth in the game of basketball. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on. So thank you, Emily and Ian.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we just heard from two seniors from both your squads who feel that you're going to be ready for the season. And I think that brings kind of the next thing is now going forward, how do you prepare right now to get competitive, and what are your expectations for the future? And we'll go with Coach Sax.
Well, excuse me, going into this summer, we're like a rebuilding stage. Last year we won 3 games. This year we won 13 games. So I was really looking forward to getting in the gym, working hard, getting ready for the next upcoming season. And hopefully even improving on that. It's kind of tough where you can't do 5-on-5, 3-on-3. You can't do all those kind of things. We do those competitive drills we do all the time in the summer. So like Emily said, it's just basically individual work, and go from there. But hopefully down the road things will change. They're a little bit better. We're able to do more things that that we normally do. But who knows? It's unanswered question right now.
Coach Gunther.
So we had a great finish to last year with a lot of young guys. So our focus is improving on top of how we finished the season last year. With the guys we have coming back, I'll be honest with you. Ian's one of the few seniors that we have. We only have 3. Ian's one of 3 that even if the other 2 we're not even sure if they're coming out and playing. So we just got to get our juniors and our sophomores ready to finish what they started last year. And that's going to be by individually prepping guys to get them to understanding their role and what they got to do to make us a good basketball team. From a physical standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, but more so from a mental standpoint, to come into the season with an attitude that we're not going to be denied this year. We're just going to come back and be the Ursuline of old. That's what we want to be. We want to come back and we want to really prep to win another district. We've got quite a few, but we haven't won any in the last couple of years, and our kids are a little upset about that. So if they come back with the right attitude and focus, we're going to try and get them ready to win another one.
And that's a good point. And let's go back to you, Coach Gunther. In the last 3 seasons, 11-14, 13-12, and 7-14, but you kind of had a very challenging schedule. Yeah. Playing in the conference, and then last year you lost in the districts. You lost to Struthers just by 4 points. So, right. And that was one heck of a game. Yeah. So, how do you take what you learned last year and kind of push it for this year?
We are see a lot of guys that haven't been coaching for a long time. They get so caught up in the records, and we don't do that, because what we try and do is we try and prepare ourselves in case we happen to get to the regional. So I've never looked at records. I've never been a fan of that, because the issue is, if you look at our schedule and the teams that we play, there's a lot of teams on there that we're trying to prep for one reason, and that's in case we get to the regional. So our motto is going to be to take what we did at the end of last year with playing, and people don't realize we were playing 4 sophomores major minutes, a stud freshman major minutes, and some juniors, and with a couple good seniors. But our focus coming back is with that group of sophomores, the freshmen, and a couple juniors we got coming back. And, we should be knocking on the door for the next couple of years. There's no question about it. So if we're not successful, look at me. That's the problem. So that's the reality.
Well, I'm not going to say I'll let your players say look at you on that one. But you do have a point. And sometimes some people don't take the edge at, hey, we need to play better. We need to improve. So in going to Coach Sax, Girard, last year, the last 2 years, you've had up and down seasons. And then this past year, you had a 13-11 season that really culminated with a great season. You had a very tough schedule compared to the Northeast 8, which is loaded from Poland to South Range girls. So you're playing in a very difficult conference, just like Coach Gunther is. So how do you look at that and kind of say, you know what, hey, let's learn from what we did last year to improve this year? So what do you take in the momentum going forward?
Well, we always call it a rebuilding. I knew we were going to struggle in that last couple of years, because we're going to have a tough conference. You got to play Poland twice, South Range twice, Struthers twice, McDonald. So that's kind of tough. Excuse me. But we won only 3 games, and I said, just stay motivated, work on the things we need to work on. We won 13 games, and I said, I just told them today, I said that in order to beat the Polands, to beat the South Range, there's things we have to accomplish in the next so many months. We have to get better at our weaknesses in order to compete with those 2-3 teams. So hopefully we can work on those kinds of things in the off season. but it basically comes down on, like I say, improving on a few things, and I think we can actually compete with the big girls, I should say.
Well, in lately, OHSAA every couple years is redistricting schools. I mean, they're moving certain schools down, moving them up, depending on the Cleveland district, the Struthers district, or even the Warren district. So, and those, I think, play a key role in who you play every year, because you want to play those teams that are going to be tough, no matter if it's a D3, D4 type of mentality, from a Cornerstone Christian to a Canton Central Catholic girls, who's always good. And like you said, McDonald is always good. So what do you do? Do you do anything differently to prepare for those types of teams, or is it every game is different or the same? I'll go to Coach Gunther on that one.
Well, yes, we all, in preparation, I mean, in reality, every game is a different prep game. And, we prepare and practice daily on certain things, but then we break it down to an individual basis of how we're prepping for certain teams. I'll be honest with you. We've been prepping for Struthers and Cheney as a staff and as a unit already, because we know those are the two teams that seems to beat. They both got players coming back that are really talented. So our schedule this year with our AD has done a great job to prep us for when we do meet those teams and happen to get to those teams in the tournament, that we feel like we're prepared to be able to beat either one of those teams if we come up against them. We know Poland's going to be coming back. We know Cheney's coming back strong. We know Struthers is coming back strong. And, right now, those are our focus teams. But as the season progresses and you watch some of the other teams in our district and you watch them improve, you got to start to prepare for those other teams. So, you can start off early in the season and say you're prepping for it, but as the season progresses, you got to figure out who the other teams are that are going to be pretty talented and start prepping for them also.
What about you, Coach Sax? Same question to you. How do you prepare?
Excuse me. We prepare for I have a great coaching staff. And Jack Berman is my assistant. He does a great scouting report on every team we play. And we send videos to the girls to huddle. We'll send them 4 or 5 videos on every team that we play. And we practice against them. We have a scout team that actually does exactly what they do. So every team we play, we prepare really hard. And then I'm real happy with our preparation. I mean, our girls, when they go onto the court, they know what they're going against, and they know what the other teams do and what they run. And we do that through video. We do that through practice. And that's one thing I will say. I have really, really great staff. And they prepare the girls really well.
Well, and I have to ask this question, and any one of you guys can answer this. We talk a lot about how much prep and how much time during the season that you coach during the week, during the season. So in an average work week, that not your full-time job, if that's teaching or how many hours do you normally put in just in preparing and coaching during the week, during the season? I'll go to anyone at Coach Sax.
Well, besides our practice prep, I watch tons of film. Having huddle now is awesome. Back in the old days, we had the old millimeter films we had to go watch. But I get on my film. It'll be 10 o'clock at night. I'll put on a film with Struthers and watch the girls. Just constantly. There's no time limit. It's constant. From the time we start to the time we end, we're all evaluating, watching film, just to pick up a little thing. I'll watch a team 5-6 times before we play them. And I want to know all their tendencies. And then, like I said, I send it out to the girls. And, it's a lot of hours. I can't even measure how many hours we put in watching film at least. And then we go scout. We go out and watch them. I like to see a team play at least one time.
In this, Coach Gunther?
And he's right. You can't put a time frame on it, but you figure we put in minimum of 2-hour practices a day. Like he said, we watch film every night. You're scouting. And if you're really doing this the right way, the time is nonstop. Because, throughout the day, even though you're working, you're thinking of what you got to do to have a better practice and what you got to do to prep for a game. So your physical time is probably 3.5, 4 hours a day. And then your mental time, You know, if like Coach has been in it 37 years, I know mentally he's thinking about coaching, you know, pretty much all day long. I mean, when you're prepping for a game, you're trying to focus on some other things. You're thinking about that big game you got tonight. So not only the physical side of it, but the mental side of it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. My wife is sitting here right now, and I know by the end of the season, she is ready for me to be done. And there's no question about it. And mentally, most coaches are ready to be done. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of young guys that we've had on our staffs, when they realize how much time you put in, it's hard for them to be able to stick with it. And that's just the reality of what it is. If you're going to be good at this, you got to put time into it.
Well, and I think that brings up a good point. And I'll ask Coach Saxon now, just to, I hate to do this, but to age Coach Saxton, we had Coach Collin from Boys South Range on here, and he had 46 years under his belt with 56 assistant coaches that are now head coaches. So I will ask the same question to you, Coach Saxton. Do you enjoy what you do for that many years, day in and day out?
Oh, yes. I mean, coaching to me is it's my life. I've been doing it since I was 17 years old. And then people always ask, when are you going to retire? Whenever it doesn't become fun anymore, and whenever I can't give 110%. Like Coach said, it's endless, day after day. I mean, people don't realize what you sacrifice with your family. I mean, missing dinners, going scouting, driving all over the place. You know, like my lunchtime at school, I'm watching film. I mean, I spend a lot of time doing what I do because I love it. When it comes to the point where it's not fun anymore, I don't enjoy it. I can do it physically. I'm good for another 20 years.
Well, and we hope you're around for no.
My wife wants to take over the program, but I won't.
Well, that's between you and your wife. I've learned not to get in the middle of that nowadays. And I'll just bring the exact same question to you, Gunther. You've been around for, I think, a long time. I tried finding how many years. I couldn't find it.
Year 19 coming
Year
up.
19. I thought
At
I was
Ursuline, 26 total.
Yeah. So you've been around too. So how do you feel about this? Do you really enjoy what you do? Because like Coach said, if you don't love the game, you can't give 110%.
I absolutely love the kids. I love coaching. I love practice. My greatest moments are, of course, big time game nights. And I'll be honest with you, there's times I've questioned and said, you know, is it time to walk away? And then every year I get that itch back. I think one of the keys to coaching is, you know, you can coach all season, you can push, but then you need to get away from your kids for that 2 to 3, 4 weeks to just give yourself a mental break, get yourself a refresh button. And then I get that fire back after that 30 days off the state makes us take. Man, I start, and I never say I'm coming back every year. I never say that. I take that 30 days off, and then I refresh and decide whether I'm coming back. And I thought I'd be done after 5 or 6, and here I am 19 years later.
Well, like you said, when you get those assistant coaches that want to know what you do as a head coach and how you plan, and they see the hours, sometimes they're kind of like they phase out. And we have and as you know, we have a lot of older coaches that have been around 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And we have a young surging, but not enough, almost like basketball officials. No one wants to deal with it could be a variety of issues. So, I mean, I know from the two of you, because you yell at me when I'm running up and down the basketball court.
That's our job. We got to yell at you.
And I have no problem with it as a basketball. Huh?
Make the right call. You're right.
Well, if you guys would coach instead of yell at me, I mean, what do you want me to do?
I don't yell.
Well, and you know what? I've had, I mean, you know me as I've been doing this since as long as both of you have been coaching. I enjoy the game. I love the game, just like you guys do.
Right.
So that's how I keep going back. Now, moving down the road, as I get a little bit older and slower, that kind of runs into, hey, I got to still get up and down the court. I still got to make sure I can be in a position, just like coaches need to be on their kids doing what they need to do and coach. So and that brings a good point is I enjoy the kids. If you don't enjoy, I mean, I would rather get paid $100,000 to the job I love instead of the $1 million job that I'm stressed out about.
Right.
And we know coaches high school coaches, they're not getting paid millions of dollars like these coaches. So I entitle you guys. I appreciate what you guys do as coaches. You guys do so much time, and we put our energy. So I commend you for doing that.
Thank you.
So at the end of that, now we've had some questions that have been submitted from people. So I'd like to kind of ask the questions, and either one of you can answer or both of you. So we'll go with the first question. So I won't give the full name. I'll just give a question with their person's name. So the first, and you'll be able to see it on your screen. So the first question comes from Lisa. What do you guys see as the most challenging obstacles moving forward with the current guidelines the way they are now? And Coach Gunther first.
I just think the most challenging part of the guidelines is I said it briefly earlier. It's just getting that camaraderie and that teammanship together, because we can't have everybody together. We can only have X amount of kids in the gym at one time. So they're coming in, one group's coming in at an hour, next group's coming in another hour. So I think we're going to have to be creative on how we're creating camaraderie, not just in the gym. You're going to have to do probably some more team building things outside of basketball in order to get your camaraderie going, because we just can't do the gym thing right now. So the biggest issue is going to be building that team camaraderie and that team spirit and to get your togetherness so you have a great, successful year.
I agree exactly. You want team bonding. You want your kids together. You want them to learn from each other. And then the thing is that the younger kids that are coming up, your freshmen that are like, it's a culture shock. You don't have your seniors that can bond them together with the rest of the group because you're separated. So I see that being like a little bit of a dilemma for us. We want to get the whole team as one, but right now we can't. We have to separate. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for coaches.
Well, and I think that's with whatever OHSA comes out with, because we are still not aware if we're going to have a fall football season. That's not been confirmed yet. Right. They've started to let them go back to training and workouts. So there may be a change where we may have – there's one proposal on the table that says that football and soccer would be a spring sport and baseball, softball would be a fall sport. So there are a lot of different things, but we know that basketball will stay where it is. And I think that's one good thing. So, you guys have any reaction to that on what you've been hearing at your schools of what's been happening with sports through the OHSA? Because there's not been an announcement as of yet.
Well, it's changing periodically. It keeps, you hear one thing, a week later it's something different. So right now there's no stability exactly what's going to happen. So we really don't know. When they basically come down with a final decision, then we can go from there. But like right now, it's up in the air.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we're going what the state's telling us we're allowed to do, and I think it's all going to depend on what happens through this period here. If we don't see a spike in the coronavirus, I think we'll gradually be able to do more things. And if it continues to go well, I think we will definitely have a full season. Football, maybe not, but if things continue to go well, I mean, everybody wants to get life moving on and continue to go in the right direction as long as we're not putting anybody in harm's way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think we all think that the number one priority is safety for our players and our community as a whole.
Yes.
So, and I think this is the last question. So, this may be the last question, but we'll see what happens. So, what is your best memory in coaching? So whoever wants to answer that one, I see that. Huh?
Beating Ursuline. He hates me. No, I don't know. I think just watching the kids get better and improve. Like I always said, I'm at the same school for 30 some years, and you know you're not going to be very good for 2-3 years, and just watching those kids develop and get better. And I've always prided myself on saying, we'll be back. We're going to be rebuilding for a few years, but we'll come back. And watching them go from down here to back here, I think that's the enjoyment I get, being at the same place. And Girard's a great place to coach. I mean, we have a great athletic director, Nick Hawker, and he's the best. So, I'm happy where I'm at.
Coach Gunther?
I just think my greatest memories are, just watching kids improve. Like right now, the year we won the 4 district titles in a row, that was a great part of my coaching career. But really, the greatest part of coaching for me right now is when I see the kids come back and you realize how you changed their lives. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I've got Mark Hughes that's playing ball overseas. I get to chat with him briefly. I've got to coach 3 or 4 or 5 guys that have gotten the opportunity to play pro ball. I've got guys that are successful in business. And when they come back and tell you the impact you had on their lives, that's the greatest part of coaching. I'm 18. I finally get to see the fruit of some of my, and everybody knows I'm brutally tough on our kids. And when they come back and tell me, Coach, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be the person that I am. That's what makes it great.
Well, in between the 18, 19, 20 years that you have and the 30 some years that Coach Sax has, I think you guys have really meshed a lot of great players that turned out to be great women and great men now doing things better in their communities. And I think that helps when you have that experience to do that and you can look back on that. So, but I appreciate your guys' time and energy tonight for joining me. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Spanning the Need. Tomorrow night we'll have Mayor Catherine Miller, the first female mayor of Struthers, Ohio. Be safe and have a blessed day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ian.
Good night. We'll see you.